On this week's episode of the Crushing Debt podcast, debt is a clutter problem. So, welcome back to this week's episode of the Crushing Debt podcast. My name is Sean Yesner, owner and founder of Yesner Law. To all of you that are listening on the day of release, because what better to do on the day of release than listen to our show? Merry Christmas.
It's a
You
gift.
can.
It's a gift, my friend.
It's the gift that keeps on giving. You can take the audio of our show and I guess put it on some kind of device that you put in a stocking stuffer. I don't know what I'm saying anymore. Merry Christmas, George. How you doing?
I'm doing well. It's a little cold here in Florida. It's been a nice consistent 70. So I'm a little, I gotta have the parka, right? I have to have the goose down jacket. No, I'm kidding. I'm kidding. It's just rubbing it into the rest of the country that seems to be in a nice cold spell. So it's all
Hey,
good though. Doing well.
to us native Floridians, 70 degrees is really cold.
Well, 7 degrees too would be very cold as well, but
Seven
I think
degrees
you
too.
could do that in Minnesota and still be very cold.
So
So
you got your Christmas shopping done, George?
Christmas shopping was done. I think my kids are all satisfied and happy, and if they're not, it's okay. I told them maybe next year. Better luck next year. That's I treat Christmas gifts as year-end performance reviews. So if they're not happy, it's probably because they didn't do really well with me this year. So we'll I'm already training my kids for the real world. So I'm just trying to
Yeah.
get them disappointed as they age into adulthood.
There's always next year. So let me ask you this question, George. What do
Yeah.
you do when your kids are done opening presents? Is there just paper and wrapping paper and tape and boxes and gift boxes? Is all that stuff just cluttered all over your house?
So I've learned over the years that yes, it can be, but I think I've tried to be a little bit better because I the chaos will kill me, So that's one thing that I like right away. But I have learned over the years just have the bag, the garbage bag nearby, and as the kids are ripping it and all that stuff they do with the boxes and all the I basically, whatever they're not going to keep, it goes right into the bag. So as they're going through the process, boom, okay, hey guys, all right, let's move it along. Occasionally, I'll get a cat or a dog get mixed in with it, so I'll throw them in the garbage. But they usually start yelling and saying, "Hey, wrong thing, buddy."
Well, and what about beyond that? What about so I'll tell you this story. I I my boys were opening their Hanukkah
Hmm.
presents. I give them one a night,
Yeah,
and I didn't remember what I've bought for the boys over the different years.
that's
Uh,
good.
I I gave them. I found at Target one of those mini portable Tetris video games,
Nice.
and so I bought it for my older son. That was one of his presents, forgetting that I had bought it for him last year.
Oops.
So he's got two of them now.
Dad,
So if
Dad.
anybody wants a gently used Tetris video game,
It'll be a
ask.
giveaway. It'll be a giveaway that we put together. I love it. I love it.
So what do you do in your house to make sure that not only are you not duplicating gifts, but once you've given them a gift, that just doesn't become a pile of clutter?
So after any gift giving, so I think I try to. I mean, thank God for Amazon. Like an Amazon list. That you have those kind of buys, so that little things like that to help organize. And then some of the things that I've been doing, Chris, my wife usually kind of helps with like, yeah, we already did that. Now it works against her though, because that means I have to remember what I get her every year. So that might be a problem. So, but we'll sorry, honey, love you. We'll ignore that comment.
Well, I keep talking about clutter and what to do with clutter because we have a guest on this week's show.
Nice.
So I want to introduce our guest. At a young age, she learned from her mother that you can accomplish a lot in just 15 minutes. She's applied this idea in her roles as a homemaker, wife, mother of two grown children. She holds a Bachelor of Science degree with a major in accounting. Nice major. That was mine too. From the University of Wisconsin-La Crosse. She's worked as a bank teller, staff accountant for a commercial real estate firm, bookkeeper for three different nonprofits, a substitute teacher, and a sales associate in a Christian book gift store. She enjoys meeting new people, taking walks with her husband and dog, singing, knitting, reading, and spending time with her granddaughter. In 2015, Conquering Clutter was established. Over the past 10 years. She's worked with clients hearing their stories. Her motto is helping people simplify their spaces so they have more time for what they love and who they love. Welcome our guest to this week's show, Beth Ruck. Welcome, Beth.
Hi, thank you for having me. It's great to be here.
So I do want to let everybody know the name of the company is Conquering Clutter. The website is conqueringclutter.net. They can also reach out to you at Beth Ruck7, RBETHRUCK 7 at gmail.com. So talk to us a little bit about clutter. I know you've got some statistics.
Right. So I pulled up this article by Joshua Becker, who's a well-known minimalist and author and speaker. And his article was 21 surprising statistics that reveal how much stuff we actually own. And I'm going to share maybe 5 or 7 of them. So the first one, the LA Times did a study, and at one time they found out that the average American home has 300,000 items in it.
Oh, wow.
So
300,000
items, like stuff.
items, yeah.
Okay.
So I don't know if they're probably not talking every individual paper clip and, staple. But if you think about this, a banker's box holds 3,000 pieces of paper. So kind of an interesting statistic. This one I thought was real interesting. The average size of an American home has nearly tripled in size over the past 50 years. So
that makes sense. Okay. Yeah.
It's kind of crazy.
We need more space for the stuff.
Yeah. This one out of every 10 Americans rent off-site storage. So that
was guilty. That's again, there's not when I was renting, because if you're a renter, that makes total sense. Because
right.
Again, you don't have enough space in some of those rental spaces. So okay.
Yeah,
I could see that.
One of the criticisms of the neighborhood where I live, and I live in a fairly well neighborhood, fairly good neighborhood in Hillsborough. One of the frustrations here is my house has almost no storage space, and I don't have a. I probably am around the average American household, but I don't have a lot of stuff, but I don't have a lot of storage either.
Mm-hmm.
So,
yep. Well,
anyway.
Yep. I hear you. I've gone through that too. This one, 25% of people with a 2-car garage don't have room to even park their cars in their garage. And 32% only have room for one vehicle. And I think when I've seen what people have in their garages, I'm like, your car is probably the biggest asset that you would want to protect in a garage, and then you have all the stuff in there that is not protecting that asset. So I think that's interesting.
If the listeners could see my face, I'm like, I'm in the 32%. I try to at least do the one car.
Yeah.
I'm in the process of trying to do the 2, right? But I am so guilty of. I feel like I have stuff in there from 1947. I'm not even that old, and I have stuff from other generations. So guilty on that one. Oof.
Yep. How about George? You might tell me if you think this is a correct statement. Nearly half of American households don't save any money. Would you agree with that?
I think the number right now for most Americans who can afford a $400 emergency is right now in the 60, I think it's 65% range, something of that nature. So it's a little scary. Yeah.
Yeah. Yep. There's 2 more. Over the course of our lifetime, we will spend a total of 3,680 hours or 153 days searching for misplaced items. Yes, we don't.
I gotta laugh at that one. Yeah.
Like,
where are my car keys?
Yeah. So, and the last one, Americans spend $1.2 trillion annually on non-essential goods. In other words, items they do not need.
I
So,
yeah, I unfortunately I'm in that boat as well.
yeah.
Because I like collecting certain things, so I'm not even gonna. But no shame in the game. But yeah, I can see definitely we see that a lot, especially when we talk about like garages and having public storage. Um,
Mhm.
do we really need that bike that we're probably never going to ride? And we see it in collecting dust, but it's still in the garage, thinking that one day we're gonna use that item. I use the bike because unfortunately I'm in that boat,
Yeah.
but that's a different
But
situation.
yeah, I'm guilty of that. I have the bike that my parents bought me when I was 16. That's
Oh,
been quite a while.
that's odd.
So,
Well, I mean, again, there may be sentimental value, but I guess it's still the same question, right? When we talk
yeah.
about clutter, there's certain questions that we need to be asking ourselves regarding like, do we need it? Do we want it? Like what is there a process that we should you say, declutter in 15 minutes, right? What are some of the things we start thinking about there?
Well, when I work with clients, I'll tell them don't it's over too overwhelming if you're like, I need to organize my whole house or I need to organize this room that's full of stuff or my garage. So I tell them to pick one area to just start on
Mm,
and ask themselves questions like you just were saying, do I need it? Do I use it? And do I love it? So we might not love our tax returns, but we probably need to keep some of them for a while. And uh, there's things that we use every day, and then things that we really love that are like, this is my favorite mug to use. Like, I would be really sad if I didn't have this mug, but do I need the other 50 that I have in my house? So, um, but it's just real interesting working with clients and, you know, hearing their stories about why they have things and why they've kept things. And one of the first things I do, especially if I'm dealing with someone that's got a lot of stuff, I tell them, please stop shopping. Like while we're working together, you can buy groceries, and you can buy the toilet paper, but don't go buy any more clothes. Don't go buy any more storage containers. Don't stock up on, the good deal at Costco or Sam's Club, like stop buying things because you don't even know half of the stuff you have in your house. And once we uncover it, you're going to be like, oh, I forgot I had this, or why did I hold on to it, or I bought this product and I hate it. It's like, well, do you like it anymore? Well, it's sitting in your countertop or in your, under your sink. Probably not. So why do you have it? But a
Well,
lot of, yeah, go ahead,
you
Sean.
know, I think for me, decluttering is almost therapeutic from in a sense. I mean, I don't think it's any secret. We're actually at the 2 year anniversary of when I lost my wife, and it took me about a year before I could start cleaning up from her being gone. And I still kept some of her stuff that has sentimental value. I have a
of
corner in
course.
my closet in the bedroom that's got some of her stuff that's got sentimental value. But at the same time, it was a little bit therapeutic to, I ended up tossing, she had a textbook from when she graduated from graduate school from her graduate degree. She had a book that was from like 2009. And, on the one hand, it
Yeah.
has nothing to do with what I do or with what anybody else does. And on the other hand, the book is what, 12 years old, 13, 14 years old. There's no reason that anybody should have it. So I tossed it.
Yes.
I donated a lot of her clothes. I got rid of a whole bunch of stuff there was a mug that she was, like you said, a coffee mug that she was pretty partial to, but it had all kinds of cracks and chips and I debated saving it from a sentimental value perspective. I ended up tossing it to create more room because I'm not going to use it. I'm not going to display it. It's broken and cracked and chipped. But
Right.
there was actually something healing in my journey
I can
about
imagine.
getting rid of stuff. And I got rid of my stuff too, some of my stuff too,
Right.
just her stuff. There's something I remember every year I see the thing that says you take all your shirts that you hang in the closet and you hang them backwards.
Right.
And as you wear them, when you put them back on the hook, you put them right side right side into the closet. And then at the end of the year, you look and you see what shirts haven't I worn all year. And those are the shirts you donate
Right.
or the
Yep. That's
clothes
a
that you
good tool.
donate. And there's something therapeutic about it.
Yep. And what you said about, it took you a year to really want to go through your wife's possessions. That is very common. I've helped several older women whose husbands have passed on, and they're just not ready. They're depressed. Their life is totally changed, and they're older, and they can't do as
Although
much.
I'll tell a funny story so I don't bring the show down anymore. Um, my we're also just beyond a year of when my dad passed, and I think my
Mm,
mom waited like a week before she cleaned up the house. He immediately was like, he's gone, we're throwing this, we're tossing that, we're rearranging this, we're redoing that.
I love
so
right.
it.
so it took
But
me a
everybody
year.
handles grief differently, right?
Everybody
And
deals with it different.
that's
Took me a
Yeah.
okay.
year, it,
That's
it took
okay.
her a couple of weeks.
Sure.
Right. Yep. And I think it's very important to remember that we're all at different stages in our lives. So, you know, Sean's got his boys that are still at home and dependent on him and live there. And George, your daughters are more independent, and one's graduating college soon, one's
Right.
graduating high school. My kids are out of the house. They just come over to visit. And so you have things in your house that reflect what stage of life you're at. Unfortunately, there are a lot of people that hang on to things and are like, oh, I can't get rid of, Joey's trophy from soccer that, it's a participation trophy or things like that. And so I heard a really good quote the other day. I can't remember who said it was, remember, things that are sentimental to you are not sentimental usually to the other people. So when you're thinking about, oh, I need to keep it because of this or that, your kids probably don't feel the same way about it. Um, there's a book called Don't No, Your Kids Don't Want Your Blank. I won't say the word on there, but on the air, but they don't mostly want what you have kept, what's important to you. And so I've gotten to the point where I've got a couple boxes, small boxes of memorabilia. And I told my kids, this is important to me, but this is not important to you. So when I'm gone, just get rid of it. If you feel like looking through it, fine, but there's no attachment to it.
So
So
how
go ahead.
can decluttering your life, what's the connection there between decluttering and debt? How do we connect those two things?
So first off, I think it if you have that mindset like, hey, I'm going to get rid of things I have, it makes you evaluate, like what's important to you. It makes you evaluate like, oh, I spent good money on this thing and I kind of bought it on a whim or I thought it was cute, but I've never done anything with it. So in that sense, it makes you think, well, how am I going to spend my money in the future? And I always, I have a couple questions that I have my clients think about when they are thinking of replacing something. So, like, if they look to replace something, it's like, well, do I really need to replace that or not? Or if I'm going to replace it, will I get rid of the old thing? Because if I don't, then I have duplicates. Um, and usually, if you replace something, it's because the other thing is worn out or it doesn't work how you wanted it to work or you don't like it. So it's a lot of people have the one thing in, two things out because it just helps keep everything, flowing. Then you know where things are. And then I say to them, when you're buying the new things, that because you've gotten rid of old things or replacing things, is are you going to go into debt if you go and buy these things? Are you having to put it on a credit card that you can't pay off right away?
Right.
Where are you going to store the thing? And I'm like, personally, when I go shopping for certain things, if I don't really love it, I don't buy it.
Ooh, I like that. Yeah.
Because, and there's also you know, I think there's like a 30-day rule. Like if you see something and you could probably go back and get it and you look at it and you're like, oh, I really want to buy this kind of on impulse. And you're like, maybe you put it in the Amazon wish list cart or file it away and you're like, okay, I'm going to revisit this in 30 days and really think, oh, I really don't want that, or it doesn't solve a problem, or I found something better than what I thought this was going to give me. So those are just some, and by decluttering, we don't go and buy something again that we already have because we're going to uncover things and be like, oh, I have, 20 pair of pants that I forgot about and I don't need all of these. Or let's say you're looking for a tool and they're kind of all jumbled up together. And so in the decluttering world, we tell people to, when they're decluttering, is like find every screwdriver you have and put them in a pile, and find every wrench you have and put it in a pile, and then decide, like, is it broken? Does it work how I
Right.
want it to work? And kind of eliminate those things that don't solve a problem. I don't know if people who've gotten into the I don't want to say the name of the company, but those kitchen companies where they have parties and they tell you, oh, you could buy this gadget and this does this, and you can buy
Sure.
this gadget and this does that. And it's very specific usually to one thing. And then you're like, oh yeah, that like is great. I can do this with this one thing. And then you're like, a couple of years down the road, you're like, I never used it for, this. And I spent money on something that I could have saved the money, or I could have bought one thing that did five things instead of one thing that did one thing. And so it, cleans things up. So.
Well, so I think for me, I was thinking about this in anticipation of today's recording. And one of the things that I do is, I like having a clean desk. I don't
Mm-hmm.
like papers scattered everywhere. But in terms of decluttering and debt, what occurred to me, so I'm recording this from home right now. I'm in my office here at the house, and
Mm-hmm.
I've got a stand-up mail sorter thing that's here to my right, and
Right.
in the front, it's got all the bills I've received in the mail so far that need to be paid in January. So when the end of the year comes around or the changeover in month comes around, I've got all my bills in place. I can pay my bills and then I can file those receipts away or shred them or what. I typically save receipts for a couple of years. But
Right.
then behind it, I've got an envelope. And anytime I spend something that is going to end up being a tax deduction. So for example,
Mm-hmm.
if I do donate clothes and I get a receipt from the donation company, when I pay for my prescriptions, when I pay for my co-pays and doctor visits, and I think I said my son had a oral surgery, so I had to pay for that. All of those receipts, when I get my property tax bill at the end of the year, when I get my, everything that could potentially be something to do with my taxes, I put those in that stand up file. And so, number one, it keeps the papers off my desk. Number two, I can find the papers when I need them at the end of the year. Number three, everything's in one place, so I don't
Yes.
lose anything. So from my perspective, that's a huge advantage of being decluttered. Now, again, I'm not perfect, but
Right.
in my mind, it's almost that mindset of things appear to be in order, which makes it easier to handle my financial obligations.
Yes, definitely. And both you and I, Sean, have that accounting background.
Right.
And so our minds think that way, but a lot of people don't. And so if I work with them, I've learned this system. Um, when paper comes in, you either file it, you act on it, or you toss it. So in a way, you're getting rid of the fat with paper. Um, so that's like how you have those stand-up folders is a great way to keep from making piles, which a lot of people do, and then they can't find anything. I can't tell you how many clients if I've helped them with paperwork and I've sorted through them and they have piles. I come across checks that have never been cashed and they're a couple years old, and so they've lost money because they didn't take care of the check at the time,
Makes
and
sense.
it, can run into a couple $100. Um, or I one lady, I helped her clean out she had a whole bunch of purses and I was cleaning them out. I think we found $100 in cash and probably 5 or 6 gift cards that someone gave her that were still usable, and I'm like, well, you just paid for my session because we found all this extra stuff. But I, paper is one thing that people have such a hard time getting their mind around, and they keep way too much of it. And so, there's ways you can stop the flow of paper. Um, and there's ways you can, like you've done, Sean, like throwing all your bills you have to do, or having another folder for like things for your kids where you need to, sign a form or follow up with someone. Having those action folders handy right on top of the desk saves you so much time and aggravation. And, when it comes tax time, you've got all your receipts in the one place. That is so much easier to do your taxes than going, oh, where did I put that? Or I lost that and I have no idea where it is. And you basically waste, throw away money because you're not getting the deductions you want. So,
The
I
one
have,
thing you guys have been talking about, and Sean, I think you mentioned in one of our previous episodes as well. We talk about physical, right? So I can go and it's something that I can see, right? I go in through the house and I'm like, oh, do I need this? Do I need? So I think a lot of us can relate to that too. But I think a lot of us are starting to realize the habits we have in the home with the physical is now manifesting in the digital. Where now we have, because I remember, this guy here with his clutter of email in his
yeah,
mailbox.
yeah.
But it's the same principle that we're putting into practice, right? It's kind of like maybe one day this email from 17 years ago I'm gonna need. You just don't know. You just don't know. This advertisement from Google that says welcome to Gmail, that first time you signed up 15 years, you may need it. You may need it. So I think that's another thing where you're seeing that physical now manifesting in the digital. I'll make a joke. My wife, she I love you, honey. Her email, the number blows my mind because on and in your devices it has like how many unread message. It says 30,000. It says 30,000, and when I look at it, I go, "What, honey?" It gives me anxiety when I see it. It's just like, what is wrong with you?
It gives me
yeah.
anxiety listening to that.
Well, there are programs out there that can help you eliminate,
Yep.
emails like that, and then just unsubscribing and,
Right.
things like that. So there's a pioneer in organizing, and she's a specialist in paper organizing. Her name is Barbara Hemphill. Her tagline is clutter is postponed decisions. So I love that because have you ever, you'll get something and you're like, I don't want to deal with this, or I'm done with this. And shove it in a closet, throw it in the basement, put it in the garage.
Sounds about right.
And then all of a sudden you look and you're like, oh my gosh, I've got a big mess here because I didn't deal with it at the moment. And I'm kind of weird in this way, but you know how a lot of times we think things are going to take longer than they actually will? And so, for instance, like a lot of people I'll see cluttered countertops in their kitchen and they're just not cleaning up. And I'm like, if you emptied your dishwasher and filled it up again, it takes maybe 5 or 10 minutes at the most, or if you have to hand wash, it's just a few minutes. And if you arrange your kitchen in such a way, it's easier to put things away because you've thought out your space well. And it just amazes me how we talk ourselves out of doing things because we think it's going to take too much time. And when we actually sit down and do it, it's like, oh, that really didn't take that much time. And I feel so much better because I spent the 5 minutes making sure my desk was clean before I left the room. Or I call it resetting the room. So I'll say to people, you could, before you go to bed at night, you got kids, you got whatever, reset your room so that when you wake up in the morning and you look at it, it looks good. You're like, oh, wow, I didn't wake up to a mess. I woke up to everything was put away. I threw garbage away. I got rid of a few things. And it's a life process. I mean, your mindset is, I have to deal with this my whole life. So making the decisions now, and the less we own, the easier it is to keep on top of things. So, and a lot of people get a thrill out of oh, I got a really great deal on this, so that's why I spent the money on it.
Absolutely.
But maybe they didn't actually have the money to spend on it.
Right.
It's like, it's such a great deal. I saved 50% off. It's like, yeah, but did you actually need that? Did you have the money to buy it?
Right.
And
girl math.
Girl math, this guy.
Yes.
We learn a lot from TikTok, and TikTok tells us that you have to live for now, Beth. I can't live for tomorrow because we don't have time on our side.
That's true. One story I remember when I worked in downtown Chicago for about 4 years as an accountant. One of my coworkers, so this is like in the mid 80s, her and her husband were like $10,000 in debt, which, I mean, even today, $10,000 is, a nice chunk of change. But back then it was even more. Well, she had the mindset, and her husband, they came kind of from well-to-do families, and they were used to nice stuff. So when they got married, they bought nice stuff, but on credit. And so they got in debt. And we were brought up in my family, it was like, yeah, you buy nice stuff when you can afford it, but it's okay to, use hand-me-downs. Like my husband and I's first apartment was mostly cast off furniture people had given to us. I had, our bed was new and our dresser was new, but everything else was, someone was like, oh, I don't need this. You can have that. And we were just like, okay, we'll buy things as we can afford them. Right. And that helped us not, be in debt. Like today we're debt free. So that's great, but it's a process. And it's a mindset that is hard to wrap around for some people. But if they can just say, I could save money by not doing this, or if I don't buy these little things, I could go on a nice trip with
Right.
my family. And um, in my newsletters and things, when it's this time of year, I'll say, let's give an experience versus a thing.
Right.
Like even your kid, teach your kids that when they're younger, it'd be like, they can make little gift certificates to give to the grandma or the parent, like, I'll wash your car, or I'll give you a hug, or I'll, you know, play a game with you. Just little things like that are going to mean so much more than if you go and buy him a toy that is, obsolete or broken in a day or 6 months from now or whatever. They've
Right.
outgrown it. So
So,
it's,
Amazing. So, but let me. So, Sean, real quick, the
yeah.
one thing that all of this is kind of getting into. Uh, What about the mindset of individuals that are kind of in this, but it's my organized chaos. This clutter is there, and then it's my, like this is how I run my world. How do you handle that kind of that mindset? Because a lot of people will use me use that excuse for like I know where it is, but what would you say to
well,
someone like that? I'm
so
talking for a friend, of course, just so.
yeah. Well, I'll ask people, what's your organizing style? Like, are you a person that needs to see things out, or do you need it behind closed doors? Or if it's behind closed doors, you forget that it's there, so then you just go buy something again because you don't remember it's there. Do you have you been diagnosed with ADD or
Right.
ADHD? Because then there's a different approach, you know, to dealing with people that have ADD or ADHD that is uh, different than if I'm just working with someone who, like, life overwhelmed them. They got things kind of got out of control. They were sick, someone died, they got married, new baby, whatever, and
Life
they just
happening.
need help getting tweaked.
Right.
But if you have ADD or ADHD, you need different tools to 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 deal with things. So you might a lot of people with ADD or ADHD are very creative. So you have to come up with a creative way to say, well, how about this? Or, do you share a home with someone that is not with the same organizing style as you? How do you not drive each other crazy? Um, I don't know if that's really answering your question, but it will be like, can you really put your finger on it
Right.
without,
I mean, I see the answer is it depends, right? So again, you're
yeah,
right on, like sometimes we're making excuses and sometimes it just again, you're right. ADHD is real with people having to be diagnosed and have to deal with those things. So it's really understanding their situation and seeing, if it's an excuse we're making or is it something that, we need to be more aware of like, okay, well, there may be some extra steps that we need to take
right.
in this journey to fix that up. Okay, that makes sense.
Yeah.
Um, so okay,
Good
so
question.
you just need Sean needs to talk to me a little bit more. That's what I'm hearing. So go ahead, Sean. Sorry, buddy.
No, it's okay. So I was going to say in the last couple of minutes or so here, what's one other tip that you might have for somebody who is struggling with getting their debt under control, getting their stuff under control, and they're thinking to themselves, if I could just get organized.
Um, well, I would say, I mean, I'm reiterating a few things, but really think about what you're buying. Like, do I really need this thing that I'm buying? Does it solve a problem for me? Will it make my life better? And most importantly, can I actually afford it? Um, so that would be one thing. If they're really struggling, get either a friend who can help them or a person like myself who I'm not emotionally attached to anything that you have, and I can guide you and ask the questions that you might not think about. But just really thinking about where, you know, if I knew where all my stuff is, will that how will that affect me mentally, physically, spiritually, and how it will affect, how I spend my money. Because if we start to shift our mindset and ask those questions, then we are free. We can become debt free. We can start saving money for things that really matter, and put money aside for like a fun thing that we'd rather do versus buying the latest what a gadget or something like that.
Right.
So, and it's just not only it frees you up like mentally and even spiritually because you've like gotten control of things. And I think many of us, when we feel like we're in control, then our life is just so much better and we can make better decisions about our money and how we spend our time.
Nice.
Makes sense.
Yeah, I completely agree. So again, I want to give out your contact information. If anyone wants to visit your website, it's conqueringclutter.net. Again, Beth Ruck7 at gmail.com. Thanks again, Beth. We appreciate you being a guest on this week's show, and Merry Christmas.
Thank you. Thank you
Absolutely.
so much. It's been great to be on, and Happy New Year, and may you have a debt-free 2026.
And clutter
Awesome.
free. Yeah.
Awesome. Yeah. So one way to help us declutter, if you could go to the Patreon page, patreon.com/crushing debt, that will I think for every piece of clutter that George throws away, you could donate like $1 or something for every.
This guy.
Also, once we get into 2026, you're going to hear a lot more about the Pan Can Walk, which is April 25, I believe. But again, there'll be information about that in the show notes as well. Other than that, anything else, George?
No, again, I thank you for the Beth for being a guest on here. Definitely looking for ways to declutter is a good thing, and I think it's probably the right time of the year for this. Right, we're ending the
Right.
year. Let's be a little bit more aware and seeing small changes, right, that we can do in the new year that can help us. I would say not right the ship, but just be a little bit more unclutter. A little bit decluttered, out of the clutter, whatever we want to call it as part of our daily lives. So that's not a bad thing. I love that. But
Right.
no, Sean, it's been great, man. I appreciate you. Happy holidays to
Thank
everyone.
you. Well, and if you're listening to this on the day it comes out, Merry Christmas. If you're listening to this in the week it comes out, we hope you have a happy new year. We will be back next week with a New Year's episode. And
Ooh.
but I think that'll do it for this week's episode. So we hope that as you declutter, you have more money at the end of the month rather than month at the end of the money. And we will talk to you in next week's episode.